Hex comes out of nowhere. Bro, I completely forgot about this crypto. Where is it? What's his name? Charles, what was his name again? The guy with the big chains. I can't remember him. He was like such a big troll, man. Isn't he sort of running for his life or something? I don't know, man. I've got to look into that. I know a lot of people that hold Hex. Hex is one token that I have just never understood what the tokenomics are or what the heck it's for. So I have never even touched it with like someone else's money, right? So, I mean, shout out to Hex, people. I thought this thing was completely dead. That's interesting. Anyway, good news for XRP holders. Apparently, Cardano's CEO, Charles Hoskinson, I would say the name incorrectly, Hoskinson, has come out and said that XRP holders will be included in the Night airdrop. Now, guys, one thing about me now is I am completely jaded and cynical and skeptical of anything airdrop related. Now, I've been in this game for a while and I've received a lot of really good airdrops in my time, but I've also received a lot of airdrops that were outright scams, attempts to nick your money, or they've got me into trouble with exchanges. For instance, the last airdrop that we got as XRP holders, I got a massive chunk that was deposited to my account in Uphold because I didn't have, I transferred some money into Uphold briefly so I could get the airdrop into Uphold, so I didn't have to deal with all these wallets, blah, 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 blah. I just wasn't in the place to deal with all that, so I tried to do it via Uphold. And that's what sparked the situation with Uphold, and they eventually closed my account based on, I've made a whole video about this in the past, so just search my page for Uphold close my account if you want to know what happened with that. Anyway, so when I see big news about airdrops and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. And because of this, in the last year, I must have missed out on a lot of airdrops from all over the place, because it's not just XRP that I hold that has airdrops. I've got like all these little tokens all over the place, and I get all these emails and all these alerts, and the pages that I follow on X that talk about airdrops, and I just completely ignore them because I just can't be bothered to put my wallet at risk because of some microscopic drop in the ocean, right? But Charles Hoskinson's airdrop of this new side chain is not a microscopic drop in the ocean. This is actually, could end up being a substantial amount of money. And also the side chain could end up being successful. And, that token itself could end up being quite substantial and actually be worth it, right? So it's one that is a good thing. Now, obviously, he's dropping most of the coins to Cardano holders. But apparently, if you hold, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Ripples, it means XRP, Avalanche, Binance, or Brave. I was surprised to see Brave there. No one ever does anything for Brave. I have some Brave, basically earned by browsing the internet. That's the basic attention token, by the way. And the whole concept of that is it was supposed to be a Web3 token that replaced what like Google and YouTube and Facebook were doing in the background with your information. The basic attention token was supposed to power creativity online, social media posters like content creators. Like say I had a website and I blogged about something, and my consumers, my readers, what have you, could reward me in basic attention token. Also, you can sort of mine basic attention token by using the Brave browser. This is why it's called Brave. There's a browser called Brave. It's a fork of Chrome, I believe. And by using this Brave browser, you can turn on adverts that rewarded you in BAT. In the early days, they were actually dishing out quite a lot of BAT. Back in those days, it wasn't worth much back then, but obviously over time it became worthwhile actually. So I accumulated a lot of BAT tokens by just using the browser to browse normally and having the adverts turned on. I think they discontinued that particular product, especially in my area anyway. I don't know if it's still available in other areas, but that's been discontinued in my part of the world. But I still hold my BAT. I've held it for a long time, 8 years I think I've held my BAT token. So it'd be interesting to get an airdrop based on BAT. That'd be interesting. There's a claim portal, apparently. If you click on that, that takes you to Binance.com. So at least I know that that's probably not a scam. And apparently this has been open since the 15th of July. So there are people who would have claimed this by now and verified that it's not a scam. What I'm going to do is actually in my own spare time, I'm actually going to log into Binance with some kind of account just to see where this goes, because I don't want, clicking on something and then it wiping out my details and stuff like that. So I would never do this with my account logged in. So I'm actually doing this from a browser in a demilitarized zone of a computer that I fired up as a virtual machine. That's how weird and careful I am with these things these days. So yeah, XRP though, looking really, really good. Even the previously bearish analysts are now saying that we're looking at a massive breakout. $10 is being touted as a possible destination in the very short term. That is within a week or so, which is a bit mad. I think that it's going to breach the Korean all-time highs this week. It's only just Monday. So by Friday, I think this would have happened. I don't think we're going to hit $10 this month, but there are people who are really, really optimistic that if the right things happen, this could happen within the week, okay? There's one of my favorite guys on X, Vincent Van Code, who basically went after the current FUD that we've seen in XRP. Once you open your eyes, he says, you will see XRP price dumps are orchestrated by the BTC cabal in order to cast FUD. The BTC cabal is heavily cashed up, billions of dollars. They are highly motivated to protect BTC from literally any store or value token. XRP has always been a threat. So what he's saying is that Bitcoin maximalists, or the cabal as it's put it there, are they're afraid of XRP because XRP threatens Bitcoin's position as store value, right? Because to be honest with you, nothing else comes close to Bitcoin at the moment in terms of perception in people's minds as to, where to store their money in terms of store value. Mostly every other coin in the cryptosphere is better than Bitcoin at doing everything else, right? Coins are faster than Bitcoin, more nimble, more fluid, not more liquid, but more scalable to do, macro payments and stuff like that. The blockchains are technically safer. The only reason why Bitcoin is more secure is because of its level of decentralization, just the vast number of nodes that there are, the vast number of miners and stuff. That's what gives Bitcoin its security and safety. And that's because of first mover advantage and the grandfather status. But it is a grandfather in everything else, in that it's not nimble, it's on a wheelchair, and it can't do the things like XRP can do. Now XRP, with the power of the company that sits behind and pushes it, which is Ripple, and their tentacles that they've sunk in every financial institution pretty much around the world now, that threatens Bitcoin directly, because XRP can access institutional money directly and leapfrog Bitcoin. It doesn't have to go through the same sort of year process as all the other coins have to. XRP can just basically leapfrog Bitcoin. And by the way, back in the day, XRP has actually flipped Bitcoin before. So there's precedent for it, and it's technically possible. Now, to flip Bitcoin now, the amount of money that has to flow into XRP is quite monumental. But that money is there. If you look at all the trillions of dollars that people keep talking about in real world asset tokenization, in tokenization of derivatives, etc., etc., etc. Not financial advice, guys. We're in for a beautiful week. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.